We have another day of talking about Philadelphia Phillies baseball. Thank you all for tuning in yet again. Welcome into Phillies Daily, everybody. I'm your host, Mike Henley. Make sure you guys subscribe for more Phillies content right here on Phillies Daily. Exciting stuff here. As always, let's get right into it. You guys mean the world to me. So we all know the Philadelphia Phillies 2025 season did not end the way that we all had hoped. Now, they had the second best record in all of Major League Baseball behind only the Milwaukee Brewers in the regular season. They finished with their back-to-back National League East titles for the first time in what feels like forever. And then they had the first round bye. Unfortunately, ran into the eventual back-to-back World Series champion Los Angeles Dodgers in the Phillies' first round of the playoffs in the NLDS. Played them pretty tough. I'll get into that in just a moment. But unfortunately lost in 4 games to, yet again, exit early in the playoffs in their first round in the NLDS for the second consecutive season, first in 2024 at the hands of the New York Mets. After, again, a pretty solid regular season by the Phillies among one of the best teams. Fell short, and then that happened again. Pretty much repeat and rinse in 2025 with the Philadelphia Phillies. Just haven't been able to get the job done in the playoffs. The bats kind of go cold. And with this lineup, the star-studded lineup that they have, especially now that they're pretty much running back the same lineup in 2026 with maybe a few different faces, but really nothing too major, they're going to have to step up and they're going to have to figure things out if they want to change what's happened these past 2 postseasons and really make another deep run like they did in 2022 to the World Series, or 2023 when they fell 1 game shy of making it to a second consecutive World Series there in that Game 7 against the Arizona Diamondbacks. Maybe a little bit of a small consolation, though, with how the Philly season ended and with the top competition that they have to pretty much take down in the National League. That's the Los Angeles Dodgers. Now, MLB insider Jason Stark was on 97.5 The Fanatic recently on one of their shows, and he said that the Dodgers really felt like they weren't lucky, or that they were lucky to beat the Phillies in the NLDS this past year in 2025. Obviously, again, the Dodgers won in 4 games, went on to win the World Series for the second consecutive season, but they felt like the Phillies were right there with them. And really, if you look at it, obviously we're all going to remember the Phillies collapsed again in another playoff round and exited early, and that last play obviously with Ryan Kirkring in the 11th inning to end the season. But if you really look at it, the Phillies did play very well against the Dodgers for the most part. Again, the Dodgers didn't feel like they were much better than the Phillies really all of 2025. The Phillies did have 3 more regular season wins than the Dodgers, so better regular season record than the Dodgers. They had a 4-2 record in the season series during the regular season against the Dodgers, so they played them well during the regular season as well. And then obviously the Dodgers won when it mattered most in the NLDS in those 4 games, but really the Phillies did arguably give the Dodgers their best fight in the playoffs throughout their whole playoff run to the World Series for the Dodgers. The Phillies actually outscored the Dodgers 15-13 in that 4-game NLDS, so scored more runs. Obviously that one game that they scored 8 runs, that helped their total, but the first game, Game 1, the Phillies lost 5-3. So they lost by 2, very close game. Game 2, even closer, 4-3. Phillies lost by 1 run. 2 kind of heartbreaking games there to start their series. You're right there in it. Could have gone either way, but you fell short, and now you're down 0-2 all of a sudden, heading to LA for the next couple of games. Then the Phillies, they did win that game 8-2 in Game 3. Got some momentum back on their side on the road. 2-1 deficit in the series to the Dodgers. They were feeling good. Then, obviously, still down 2-1 in the series, still with their backs against the wall, still facing elimination there in the best of 5 series. The Dodgers, they ultimately won 2-1 in the 11th inning in that extra inning game in Game 4. Again, heartbreaking stuff. The Phillies played well that game. Well, I shouldn't say well. The offense didn't do enough. Obviously, they only scored 1 run, but the pitching staff was very, very good. Everybody that was in the ball game, and then unfortunately, just tragic play by Ryan Kirkring in the 11th inning to end the Phillies season when they really could have kept that game going and potentially won it there and forced a Game 5 and tied up that series possibly and maybe went on to win the World Series, because again, the Dodgers really didn't feel like they were much better than the Phillies, and it really showed all season long in the regular season and even in that NLDS. Now the Dodgers, because they really don't feel like they're much better than the Phillies, they went star hunting yet again this offseason. Obviously, they just signed star outfielder Kyle Tucker to that massive contract for 4 years the other day. And then they signed Edwin Diaz, the all-star closer, as we all know, from the New York Mets earlier this offseason as well. So they got 2 more big names to their roster, to their lineup, to their pitching staff, and already adding those 2 stars to an already star-studded roster. So the Dodgers, yes, they may have gotten better this offseason, but that's really because they feel like the Phillies are right there with them, and the Phillies are pretty much their top competition in the National League and trying to prevent them from going for a three-peat in 2026. Hopefully the Phillies can play the Dodgers well again. Hopefully we get some more better play in the playoffs this season in 2026 if the Phillies do make it. And the Phillies are still a really great team. We all know that. We all know that they're one of the best in Major League Baseball, and that shows here with the Dodgers' philosophy and what they've said about the Phillies this offseason, and really for a while now, one of the top competitions in the National League. Now, the Phillies obviously do have bigger goals than just getting to the playoffs, than just making it into the first round, and then just losing or even falling anything short of a World Series. They got bigger goals. Recently, MLB.com had a recent piece article ranking each 2025 division winner's chance of repeating as a division winner in 2026 this upcoming season. The Phillies, they were ranked 3rd overall out of the 2025 Major League division winners. The 2 teams ahead of them were the Dodgers at number 1 in the NL West, and then the Seattle Mariners in the AL West were both above the Phillies in the NL East. Now, the Phillies, again, are back-to-back NL East champions. They did have back-to-back NLDS exits in the playoffs. They want more success. Obviously, a World Series is way better than just repeating as a division winner. So, Phillies simply have bigger goals. And obviously, us as fans don't want to just see this and be like, oh, yes, hooray. The Phillies are going to repeat as division champions for the 3rd straight year. We'd rather get some playoff success. We'd rather make a deep playoff run. We'd rather end the season holding that World Series trophy and having a parade down Broad Street. So as great as it is to have this kind of status as one of the best teams in Major League Baseball, as potentially a back-to-back-to-back three-peat division champion, bigger goals, World Series over anything, especially with this Phillies team that has their eyes set on that and has the players to do so, the coaching staff to do so, the payroll, obviously, one of the tops in Major League Baseball. So we expect nothing less than a World Series. Switching gears here towards the end of today's video, as I've been doing sometimes throughout this offseason, even I was doing it during the regular season as well, I like to give you guys some insight into some lesser-known prospects that you really don't know in the Phillies farm system. We all know the Andrew Painters, the Justin Crawfords, the Ada Millers of the world, some of these other guys as well, some of their top prospects. But sometimes we don't even know some of these guys on the back end of their top 30. Sometimes even guys not even on their top 30 prospects that are playing really well in the minor leagues, that are young, that could really make an impact here for the Phillies potentially as soon as this year. If somebody goes down with injury or they're just playing really well and somebody's struggling at the major league level, you give a kid a chance, especially later in the season when you can expand your rosters in September. So today, I wanted to give you a little prospect spotlight of Felix Reyes. Now, somebody actually mentioned him previously here on Phillies Daily in the comments section about Felix Reyes, and I was like, yeah, he's a good player. Let me talk about him. Let everybody else know about Felix Reyes. Now, he is a 24-year-old Dominican corner infielder and corner outfielder. Some versatility there, a little bit of utility guy there for Felix Reyes. Still pretty young, again, 24 years old, right-handed power threat. So again, the Phillies obviously have been looking for right-handed hitters with some power, particularly in the corner outfielder spot. He can do that. He provides that. Obviously, probably not a major league talent to this point, but he's playing pretty well, especially in this past year in 2025 in the minors. He batted .331 with a .562 slugging percentage, a .923 OPS. He had 34 doubles, 16 home runs, 67 RBIs between AA with the Reading Fighting Phils and AAA with the Lehigh Valley Iron Pigs this past year in 2025. So he hit obviously for average. His slugging and his OPS were high numbers, so the power was there as well. Doubles were there, home runs were there, RBIs were there. Great stuff out of Felix Reyes this past year in 2025. Again, a right-handed hitter, still just 24 years old. He had a .335 batting average in 95 games at the AA level. So most of his production in 2025 came at the AA level, had a lot of success there. He only played in 6 games in AAA with the Lehigh Valley Iron Pigs, so a very small sample size for him there. But maybe if he has a good year here again in 2026, in AAA with the Iron Pigs, if that's where he's going to be, then possibly, again, if somebody gets hurt at the major league level, if somebody's struggling, one of these bench guys are struggling, then maybe you give this kid a chance if he's playing well, if he's still hitting for average, if he's still showing those power numbers. He's a right-handed bat, especially at a position of need in the corner outfield. Maybe he could platoon with Brandon Marsh out there in left field or wherever it may be at some point in the season. But Felix Reyes, he's got some potential. He's got a lot of things to like. He's got some things that the Phillies obviously are looking for. So there you go. There's a lesser-known prospect that you guys should keep your eyes on. And now another guy that the Phillies could look into adding to their 2026 roster, a free agent, a veteran, and that's Manuel Margot. Not really going to be another popular name here among Phillies fans. In my previous video, I talked about Starling Marte, the 37-year-old veteran right-handed outfield that the Phillies could add for a platoon option with Brandon Marsh, obviously as a left-handed hitter. Manuel Margot, he's another guy like that, younger than Starling Marte, about 6 years or so younger than Marte. Probably not as good of a player as Marte, even though Marte is a lot older than him at this point on the very back end of his career. But Manuel Margot also offers some things to like, especially in a platoon type of role. He's not going to be your everyday outfielder, but the Phillies really aren't looking for that at this point in the offseason. They're just trying to get another right-handed bat to provide some stability there as a platoon option, bench option in case they need it, and in case Brandon Marsh doesn't really play well out there, especially against left-handed pitching. Margot, 31-year-old right-handed hitting outfielder, so checks the box of a right-handed hitting outfielder for the Phillies. 254 hitter with 56 home runs and 317 RBIs across his 10-year major league career. So the average is kind of average in today's baseball terms, 250-ish. That's pretty much fine these days. 56 home runs, the power is not really there for Manuel Margot, but he can provide some pop from time to time. He only played in 6 games this past year in 2025 at the major league level with the Detroit Tigers due to injury. He also struggled after having a rehab assignment down in the minors, so he struggled in AAA. They kept him down there following his rehab assignment. They ended up getting rid of him, I believe. He had a .316 batting average with 3 RBIs in those 6 games with the Tigers before his injury. So maybe he was going to have a pretty solid year there. Obviously, a very small sample size to start the year in just 6 games, but .316, 3 RBIs in 6 games. That's not bad at all. However, in AAA, as I said, after his rehab, he did struggle there in the Tigers farm system. .211 batting average in 37 games at the AAA level. And then again, I believe they just outrighted him and released him or whatever it might have been. But again, kind of successful. He's been around forever, 10 years. You're obviously not going to be a good player if you're not, or you're definitely a good enough player if you're around for 10 years at the major league level. So Manuel Margot, again, not really going to be the flashy move that fans would hope for, but he has played mostly center field in his big league career. However, he does have significant experience in the corners as well. So obviously probably won't be playing center field if the Phillies were to sign him, especially at his age and injuries he's had in the past. He is a cheap platoon option again, to platoon with Brandon Marsh there in left field as a right-handed option, Brandon Marsh left-handed option. So that gives you an option there. Again, probably not a popular option, but something cheaper that the Phillies could do that could pay maybe some dividends for them in the 2026 season. Hope you guys enjoyed this episode of Phillies Daily. I'm your host, Mike Kennelly. Make sure you guys like, comment, share, and subscribe for more Phillies content right here on Phillies Daily, breaking down all this Phillies talk, all these Phillies rumors, breaking news, everything. We're getting so close to more Phillies baseball now, spring training right around the corner, just about a month or so it starts here. So that's an exciting time as well. We'll have a lot more to talk about when that gets started. Thank you guys again for watching, and as always, go Phils.